What's going on, folks? It's R with Mr. Board Games of the Lonely Table, and this week on the table you're going to see us play Boss Monster. Em and I will be playing Boss Monster, which is a card drafting game where we are boss monsters and we build a little dungeon and attract heroes to come into our dungeon and we try to defeat them. However, this is a game we've had in our collection for a little bit of time now, so we didn't do an unboxing. So instead, we're going to give you, or rather, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the game and what you're going to expect on Friday when we release it. All right, let's get started. So Boss Monster is a game for 2 to 4 players. The game, like I said, is a card drafting game. Each player will start off with a hand of cards, some room cards, some spell cards. Each room card and spell card have different abilities attached to them. The room cards can be basic rooms, can be advanced rooms, and can be mini bosses because we are playing with the Rise of the Mini Bosses game. This is not exactly going to teach you how to play the game. This is just to give you an idea of what we're going to be looking at for a game in the future. In addition to the Rise of the Mini Bosses, we're using 2 separate expansion packs, which consist of items. Items are just a way to make the bad guys, or heroes rather, the good people, a little bit more rewarding or challenging, however you look at it. Gameplay is very simple. It's a very fast-paced game. 2 players, it's done at a simultaneous play. 2 players will pick, we're using amass, so we have 2 players. We will both have a boss monster, and each boss monster has a level up ability, a level up ability, a treasure icon, an experience level. The experience level is just to determine which player goes first. The treasure icon helps you attract people, and level up is something that happens once you've got all 5 rooms visible. So on your turn, each player is going to be doing a simultaneous play. So when one player plays a card, the other player is also playing a card. It's going to be done with 4 people. So the first thing you do is, so for the example, we're using a special mat just to give it a little bit more feel. So if I were to be playing, I would go ahead and we would first put down a card, say that we're getting ready to go, we'd lock it in, and on the count of 3, we'd flip it over. I have put in a Power Leech. It's a monster room. It has a 1 health ability, so it deals 1 damage, and it is a sword in terms of a treasure icon. At the start of every turn, 2 heroes will be flipped over and would be placed into town. The idea of the game is to attract them into your dungeon so you can get their souls. Because we're playing with the items, we also draw 1 item. We look for the condition, and it says who it can go on. In this case, it can go on anybody. So we'll just go ahead and we'll throw it on the fighter. That also has an ability associated with it, but we're not going to get into the details of what the ability is. At the end of our turn, our locking in stage actually, is now we look at who gets which heroes. Now, for example, he is a fighter, so he's going to be looking for anything that's got a treasure. I have 1 treasure icon, and M could have 1, she could have none, she could have 2. The fighter will go to the first, whoever has the most of that treasure icon. Fighter will move off to me for the purpose of this demonstration. Will move off to me. He's got a 4 health, so he can take 4 damage before he is defeated. So in this case, he would come in here, and he would take 1 point of damage, and he'd still survive. He would make his way through, he'd fight my monster, my boss monster, and I would end up with a wound. The item would go back to town, and I would end up with a wound. First player that's got 5 wounds is the loser, rather. So wounds are bad. In addition to playing a monster room, you can have the option to play an advanced monster room, which can be placed on top of the room. However, I don't have one in my hand, but pretend for a moment. If I had the same sword icon, I could play this item on top of that, but only on top of that, and it is a upgraded room. I did it just for demonstration purposes. Otherwise, I could not play this regularly. Another option, if you don't play the advanced room, is you can play a mini boss, because the mini boss comes in our pack here. The mini boss goes underneath the item, the room, and has the first ability. You can pay 1 coin. First, you have to pay 1 coin to create him. You can also pay 1 coin later on to upgrade their ability up until the 3rd level. They will sit here as such, and that effect will apply to that room. Further to that, if I wish to, you can play a spell card before you do the attack. That would give you an option. So, for example, if I were to play a rage card, I'd be able to choose a mini boss. For every level of that mini boss, the room gets +1. So this would then effectively become a +2, which would win against this fool when he went in to attack me. If the fool did come to me and he went through, he would be defeated here with that spell. And I would flip it over and I'd gain it as a soul. The first person to 10 souls wins the game. First person to 5 wounds loses the game. The game will continue back and forth, and every turn a hero will be, 2 heroes will appear, until a little bit later in the game when epic heroes begin to spawn. Now, epic heroes are dangerous because, as you can see here, 11 points of health. It's not an easy fight. However, as I said, the game can go on, and you would effectively do something similar to this. This is just demonstration purposes and not for the actual play. So that's another boss, mini boss. We can throw this room on top of that. So we've got this. And we'll throw in whatever the next one is. Go here. So at this point, I'd have 5 visible rooms, which would then activate my level of ability, which generally makes my boss a little bit stronger. In this case, let's pretend I did get the cleric here, who has a points of 11. She would come in, and then she would advance through my dungeon to try to get there. I would have to try to do 11 points of damage in order to stop her from getting into giving me a wound. We'd go through it all. It would be 1 point of damage, plus 3 points of damage, plus 1 point of damage, plus 3 points of damage, plus 1, and that would be the sum total. It depends on what it is. In this case, she would survive. And I would end up taking a wound, but it's worth 2 wounds. It's also worth 2 souls if I were to defeat her. Play will continue back and forth until the first person to reach the either 10 souls or 5 wounds. Once that happens, the game ends. Every turn, 1 item will be added to a member in town. If they are not attracted to someone, then they stay in town until the next turn. And that's Boss Monster. A very quick, easy, dirty explanation. It's not accurate. Like I said, I'm not here to teach you how to play it. There is demos out there. If you look in the corner, you'll have a suggested for how to play if you want a more in-depth look of how to play. This is just a preview of what's coming up later on this week, where Em and I will be facing off in Boss Monster. So stick around. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share the video, and get notified by pressing that little bell icon. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Keep the dice on the table.